Welcome back. Hunter Biden's plea deal collapses yesterday as he pleads not guilty to tax evasion. The judge balked at the immunity that his team wanted for everything, as it was revealed that he is, in fact, under federal investigation for possible violations of acting as a foreign agent. Judge Mary Ellen Noriega is also telling the first son to look for a job, not possess any weapons, avoid drugs and alcohol, and submit to drug testing before his next hearing on August 25th, or face jail time. Joining me right now is Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. He's a member of the Senate Foreign Relations and Small Businesses Committees. He's also the ranking member of the Senate Homeland Security Committee and a medical doctor himself. Senator, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning. I guess the judge intended that he avoid cubby number 55 in the White House. So he has to kind of be careful what sections of the White House he goes to as well, I guess.
Well, that's really interesting because we know cocaine was found at the White House, and then we never heard another word about it after the Secret Service said that they couldn't find any fingerprints and they had nothing from the cameras. Aren't there cameras all around there in the White House?
Yeah, we seem to be able to find DNA on a pizza box in a trash can, but we have a little bit more difficulty in the White House. No, I suspect they know more than they're letting on in the White House, and they've decided they're not really going to police this. But to me, always the most alarming thing hasn't been the drug use, but the possibility that a white powder could be something much more dangerous to everyone, and that being anthrax. And if you could smuggle powder in of any sort, white powder in a bag, I think that that's alarming, and there should be a dramatic investigation into this, not just for the punishment for drugs, which I think is wrong, but really for the idea that there could have been anthrax taken to the White House. I think was never really treated as seriously as it ought to have.
I agree with you. And when I saw that, I said, well, what else can be smuggled into the White House since, we know that this was there and we're not getting any answers? I had the exact same thought. But I want to get your take on the judge with the Hunter Biden case. I mean, the arrogance of these lawyers walking in there and expecting that Hunter Biden would face immunity from everything, even as the FBI has told us that they can't give you and your colleagues any documents regarding this because they're in an active investigation, potentially that he was a foreign agent because he accepted all that money from foreign partners, as we've learned from the House Oversight Committee.
I think the vast majority of plea deals are accepted, so I think it is unusual that the judge has rejected it. And my guess is the bar is pretty high for rejecting it, that the judge has to see something completely outside of the ordinary sentencing guidelines to do this, something that just doesn't appear to fit the crime. I think if you compare things basically to the only other case that was this high profile and that had similar type of charges would be the Paul Manafort case. And I think his sentences added up to 20 years. He was ultimately, through the sentencing guideline, I think given 7.5 years. And then we're comparing that with at least as bad, probably worse, because I don't think there were any accusations of illegal drug use or illegal disposal of weapons. His were tax violations and also not registering as a foreign lobbyist, but he still ended up with 7.5 years. And most people say this just doesn't pass the smell test. The son of the president gets 0, a Republican gets 7.5 years, and that's just not right. And maybe the judge is going to try to make it right.
Well, I want to get your take on how vulnerable this has made America. I mean, you're on Senate Foreign Relations, on Homeland Security. When you consider the fact that the Biden family may have accepted all of this money from foreigners, does that put America in a more vulnerable position, given the aggression that we see and we witness every day from China?
Well, it's amazing, the audacity. They impeached President Trump because he wanted to expose this, and it turns out that it's maybe largely true. We don't know all the facts yet, but there's indications that they were accepting money and there was corruption, and that Biden basically threatened the foreign aid, quid pro quo, stop investigating my son's company or you don't get your foreign aid. We're going to stop $1 billion. My goodness, that's just extraordinary. And the fact that this really hasn't caught up to him through the mainstream media yet, I think ultimately it will. But the good news is the House is controlled by people who want to get to the bottom of this and find the truth. And so I think we are going to find out quite a bit more about this.
So what about the Senate? House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is threatening an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. His California Democrat colleague, Congressman Adam Schiff, claims that Republicans are the ones obsessed with impeachment. Watch this.
Support an impeachment inquiry into President Biden's possible involvement in his son Hunter's business?
I think the Republican desire to impeach someone, anyone, no matter whether there's any evidence, just shows how they have descended into chaos here.
Yeah, Adam Schiff talking about Republicans descending into chaos, Senator.
A great deal of irony. The pot here calling the kettle black. The guy who impeached Trump with no hearings, they just went straight to the floor and impeached the president. This is a guy who had no respect for the Fourth Amendment rights of his colleagues, who illegally searched their phone records. This is a man without any semblance of any kind of respect for the rule of law. I do agree with one thing, though, is I think we should be better than the Democrats. The Democrats immediately rushed to impeachment without hearings, this and that. I think there needs to be continued investigation. I think that we need to listen to the 17 tapes. Apparently, 2 of the tapes have President Biden on them, and maybe 15 tapes with Hunter Biden on them. Those tapes need to be listened to. If the FBI has those, we should listen to those and make a judgment. But I think it would be better to gather more evidence before an impeachment. If there's going to be impeachment, let's have quite a bit of evidence out there that the American people are actually behind this. Because I don't really want to impeach every president that comes forward. I think the Democrats set a terrible precedent in impeaching Donald Trump just because they didn't like him, basically. And both of their impeachments fell flat and made them look, I think, terrible. But I think it's not good for the Republic to keep impeaching presidents and indicting presidents.
Yeah.
All this stuff is destructive. The other side says, oh, they're for preserving democracy. They're pitting everyone against each other, and they're destroying the fabric of our republic. So I think we have to be careful not to fall into the same trap.
So you don't feel like you have enough evidence? You've got whistleblower testimony, you've got bank records indicating millions of dollars coming from foreigners to shell companies that eventually made their way to Biden family member accounts.
And all of that is somewhat persuasive. I would want to find more, and I would keep pressuring the FBI. The FBI has been withholding things. You know, the whole interview and the whole existence of these tape recordings of Hunter Biden and his father was an extraordinarily explosive bombshell, and I think we now need to listen to them and keep gathering information. I'm not saying never, but there's 2 stages. There has to be enough evidence to impeach, and then there has to be enough evidence to convict.
Yeah.
And so I think that these are high bars, and they were meant to be so, because in a political divide, with a country evenly divided, we're all at each other's throats. It can't always be about impeaching the president we don't like from the other party. There are signs of corruption, but I think the House has a great deal of power to find more, and I want them to continue the investigation.
All right, Senator, we'll keep watching. Thanks very much for being here this morning, Senator.